Nurture and support. Nurture and support. This is a podcast theme song. And it's really short.
Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nurture and Support, a recommendation podcast sharing all the awesome since 2013. I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter.
And I'm Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter and everywhere else.
And tonight's the show where I make Mel angry. This is a recommendation that she's not going to appreciate. I'm going to insist that she follows my recommendation and watches this. But when she gets done, she will be angry.
Nowadays, it's not very hard to make me angry.
Yeah. This is rock solid, super angry.
All right.
This may be the last Nurture and Support kind of thing.
I'm so looking forward to this. Awesome.
But it'll be good for you. Trust me. Information is positive, and you will get information. So
Okay.
there's that.
All right.
So
it's going to be an angry learning experience.
It's an
All
angry
right.
learning experience. So let's just get right to it. My recommendation for this week is a Netflix exclusive, and it is a documentary, and it is called Get Me Roger Stone. So let me stop there for a second.
Oh, that name.
There you go.
Okay. I'm ready.
I'm
I'm prepared.
Yeah. So we've mentioned in past shows, we distribute our podcast on Stitcher and iTunes and lots of ways. We also create a version on YouTube. And YouTube has, due to issues with advertisers and things, developed a fairly stringent process of how they look at things and flag things that are not suitable for all advertisers. It's a little murky to me what those topics are. We've occasionally had a Nurture and Support run afoul. We still have, actually, there's one Nurture and Support that's still in the penalty box for this, which I still don't understand why. And but this one will be because kind of the overtly political comes in, and my recommendation is not. I'm not on a political agenda here. We're not going to. I found this fascinating. It is just
And the plus that it's going to piss me off.
Yeah, it's fascinating and it's going to anger me. Because as you I would almost like you to live tweet me as you watch this to say, and I see those tweets going as, I hate you. I really hate you. I hate you some more. We're never doing another show. But I found this just simply amazing. And so this isn't, as I make this recommendation, I want to be very, very clear. I am not promoting or sanctioning the behaviors of this Roger Stone individual, but oh my goodness, he is the Forrest Gump of political dirty tricks about every strange thing that's happened in politics recently. He's been in the orbit of, and his personality is he leans into it and takes a lot of credit for what people, but he has been around it. And I had heard his name, and we're probably going to hear his name a lot more. We'll talk a little bit more about that kind of during the recommendation, towards the end of the recommendation. But I didn't really have a frame of reference of who Roger Stone was until I watched this documentary. And it is, like I said, it is just amazing to me. It's just fascinating to watch. So Roger Stone is a political operative. He began his political career with Richard Nixon. So when you think about the Nixon dirty tricks, Roger Stone. so he was an architect, and he's a very young, as described by his future wife, looking like a Hitler Youth individual, very blonde-haired, Aryan kind of guy.
That's always a good sign.
Great sign, that's a keeper. No. And so he's with Nixon. Some of you might be aware that there were some issues with Richard Nixon. So he's kind of in that orbit, became actually a part of the Nixon administration as well. There was a Nixon administration, and then that ended, and his involvement ended for a while. He came back as the leader of the Young Republicans, became associated with Bob Dole for a little while, which wasn't exactly an ideal match in many ways. was on the fringes with some Reagan stuff, but some of his major involvement has been with someone near and dear to Mel's heart, Donald Trump. And so
Yay.
some of you may have forgotten that in 2000, Donald Trump made fairly serious noises about running for, well, I don't know if you call him serious noise. He talked about running for president, and Roger Stone was kind of around that and always kind of felt Trump would be kind of an interesting guy to do something with. But that nothing really kind of came of that. And then during the Gore-Bush election and the recount down in Florida, you may recall something, Mel, that was called the Brooks Brother Riot, where they were actually working on the Chads, working on counting the Chads and figuring it out. And all of a sudden there was this just kind of rumbling of a bunch of people in suits that came pounding on the door, wanting to be let in to see some things disrupted, the recount and all that. Roger Stone was involved with that as well.
Shocking.
Jeffrey Toobin, who's a legal analyst on CNN, who have always, regardless of folks' political affiliation and all those types of things, I've always found him to be kind of a fairly level-headed, pragmatic guy. He's featured fairly heavily in this. He kind of comes in and out. And Roger Stone's an interesting character. Jeffrey Toobin describes him as he's a dandy, bodybuilder, which basically pulls you down to a sample group of one, because he is very flamboyant, very big dresser, very serious about physical fitness and bodybuilding, and not afraid to have his shirt off in photos, kind of a Vladimir Putin kind of thing, maybe. But a very fit individual, also very focused on the aesthetic and very fancy dresser and all of that. And has a tattoo of Richard Nixon's face in the middle of his back.
Dear Lord.
And likes to do the Nixon arms outstretched peace sign thing as well. He's a gigantic Nixon fan, just huge proponent of Nixon. So this documentary kind of covers his whole career. Now, when he was with, and I believe it was Dole, some news came out about, hey, there's this swinger site and there's some ads out there, and it appears these ads are placed by Roger Stone. And he was like, no. A few more conversations, and then like, well, actually, yes. So he kind of got out of the mix for a while. So he's kind of been engaged, kind of fell out and came in. He circled around Trump for a while, was involved in the most recent, when Trump announced those types, he was involved, eventually left the campaign. But you get to kind of see his connectivity on there. You see other interesting things like, so Ross Perot played a fairly significant role regarding the election.
There's a man close to my heart.
There you go. So,
Perot.
yeah, more people for you, Mel. This is actually, you're loving this recommendation.
I thought I just stopped having those nightmares, man.
So a reasonable person could argue that had Ross Perot not run, perhaps the outcome of that election could have been different. When the next election came, where there was a similar circumstance and Pat Buchanan decided to run, a very similar circumstance could happen, and this was with the second Bush. Somebody worked to somewhat submarine the Buchanan camp, and kind of create problems for that candidacy, and that person was Roger Stone. So he is clearly a political trickster and does a lot of things there. It's super intriguing to kind of see his model. And now to get to current events, the other thing he did is he formed a lobbyist group. The lobbyist group was Manafort, Black, and Stone. And they unabashedly said, yeah, we're selling excess. We're about connecting. They really made no bones about, oh yeah, that's, they were very transparent about what they were doing, but it was like, you give us a lot of money and we'll get you to the right people. And they pushed the envelope, took it all the way to the edge, however they could. And I think what we're now seeing in current events is, you push the envelope every once in a while, you miscalculate and you may push the envelope too far, and there are consequences to that. So he's connected to him, and so there are developments occurring today. Mr. Manafort's not in a great situation right now. Mm-hmm. And it will be interesting to see if we hear Mr. Stone's name at some point in time as well. But he has been kind of in this space. So it's, like I said, it's very kind of Forrest Gump. It's like every kind of big event Roger Stone is somewhere at least around it. How much he really had direct influence versus how much he's self-promoting his influence, that's a reasonable question to ask, but he's been in the mix. So it's a fascinating thing just to kind of hear. I do believe as you observe it and absorb it, you will be angry. What I found most rewarding is at the very end of the documentary, and I'm surprised they didn't say Mel, but they said, so, because they could have very much said, and it was close to this, but they said, so when Mel watches this show and really, really hates you at the end of it, what would you say to Mel? And he's got an answer for you. And so you need to make your way out there because he's got an answer directly for you at the very, very end of it. It'll probably make you even more angry.
I'm sure. I was going to say, I'm sure it's a pleasant.
Yeah,
pleasant thing to say.
It won't be. I appreciate your point of view and can understand your concern. That is not his answer.
Yes.
But it is. I'm a bit of a political junkie. I just kind of do enjoy kind of the machinations of it. I don't enjoy the consequences to all of us sometimes of it, but I do find it fascinating. I had no idea of. I heard the name, but I had no idea of this kind of rich tapestry of involvement that he's had across multiple administrations and all of that. And the whole title of Get Me Roger Stone, he has Stone rules, and these are populated out, by the way, none of which you'll be supportive of, by the way. There isn't a single Stone rule that's going to get Mel's vote of confidence at all. But he kind of depicts a little bit. He says you go through a cycle of life, which is who is Roger Stone, to get me Roger Stone, to get me someone like Roger Stone, to who is Roger Stone is kind of the arc that he says people go through, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So it is, like I said, I found it fascinating. I found it mildly disturbing and irritating. I think you'll reach new levels of irritation from it as well.
Yes.
But it is helpful to kind of understand. I think it's interesting. I don't know if helpful, but it is interesting to kind of see it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a tough watch for you, and you're going to be mad at me. But I do think at the end of the day, you'll say, hey, I'm actually more informed of this horrible person.
No, I didn't know it was this bad, but thanks, Kelly. Now I know how bad it really is.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah, one of those feelings.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
and
he's currently.
Go ahead.
I believe Mr. Stone is still currently banned from Twitter. I don't know if it was a permanent ban or if he just got restricted. Is it a permanent ban?
I don't know if it's a permanent ban, but he is banned, and that's a recent occurrence given some of the things that are going on. It kind of cheats into, as we get to these social media recommendations, I certainly wanted to recommend for you to follow Roger Stone, which at this point won't be particularly valuable, but I got a fallback, so I'm good there.
Okay.
But he has also from a current event standpoint, he is currently banned from Twitter because there were several obscenity-laced tweets that went out from his account.
Yes.
As some of these indictments are coming out.
Yeah.
So, but
it's always good to know your enemy. So thank you, Kelly. How long is this rage-inducing documentary?
92 minutes. So it's just over an hour and a half. You will reach maximum rage. I'd say at the 15-minute mark, maybe from there. But then what will be interesting for you is you will discover you have new levels of rage that will come.
I have discovered that all year.
Yeah. So it's an hour and a half. It's actually a very quick, because there's so much that's going on. And I don't know, honesty can't be the word to apply here, but there is at least a self-awareness of he knows who he is to a degree. And that's, I don't know if refreshing is the right word, but it is he's not trying to kid himself, at least a little bit.
Well, he takes probably my guess would be that he takes pleasure in being a horrible person. But that's just me. You're
getting close to his response he's going to give you at the end. You got to make it through the 92 minutes.
Maybe I should go have a stress test before I sit down to watch this to make sure that I'll survive. Because maybe Kelly's way to assassinate me because I'll have a coronary or an embolism watching this.
So I struggled because I knew this wouldn't like give you pleasure in terms of, but I do think it is kind of a pretty amazing thing to kind of get through and to kind of get to that next level of detail on some of the things that we saw things go on, and then there's just like some underpinnings. They're like, oh, that was ooh, it's a very, very interesting thing, and then I think very timely because many of the people he's connected with, there's things going on, and we may be hearing more about him, as a matter of fact, down the road as well.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is get me Roger Stone.
Well, it's a good one. It's always good to be informed on these topics, and like you said, it is a timely topic. So, yeah, for 90 minutes, we can learn some information and might be useful in the coming weeks to know it before so that you understand when things happen. So, yeah, I will try not to kill myself watching it. Yeah. I might have to take some breaks.
Yep. You got to tweet me during it. you got to started it and then be watching the clock.
Yeah, I don't know much about him, so that's interesting. I've heard his name taken in vain many, many times, but I don't really know a lot about him other than the big general idea of who he is. So yeah, didn't know it goes all the way back to Nixon.
Yep. With it's a nice tattoo. It's a fairly
God, would have a tattoo of Nixon.
Center of his back, it's about 9 inches tall, 10 inches tall. It's not like a little. It's not a little thing. It's
Lordy, as Mr. Comey would say.
Indeed.
Wow. So thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Giving me this insight and homework to do that will hopefully fortify me for the days to come, I hope.
Yep. Yeah, you might want to have some alcohol available.
I was just thinking. Yeah, that might have to wait until I get the liquor cabinet restocked. So
I'd recommend it.
Okay, awesome. Make some margaritas, watch Roger Stone, and make a night of it. Awesome. So my recommendation this week could be used from a political basis. So I guess they sort of go together in the instances that I have been using this app quite a bit lately for watching some timely news that should come on. And this app has been out for years, and I have not utilized it very much. In fact, I kept hearing that it was going to be shut down, and so I had actually uninstalled it from my phone. So probably everybody in the world uses this except me, and that would be Periscope. So I don't know if you use Periscope, Kelly. Do you?
So I've got the app, and actually for a brief period of time, I was not a broadcaster on Periscope, but I was loving just leveraging it as far as a way to plug into what's going on wherever in a really cool way.
Right. And so that's kind of where I am right now. I've been using it for a couple of weeks, and it's something that's been popping up all the time. I remember installing it when it first came out, and I just wasn't, I don't know if I wasn't following the right people or there wasn't enough going on, but I wasn't getting a lot of use out of it. So Periscope is one of those social media video apps where you can live stream anything wherever you are from your phone. It works on iPhones, Android phones, tablets. You can watch on your computer. I don't know if you can stream from your web camera. Probably you can, but it's meant mostly for mobile streaming. What I've gotten the most use out of it lately is a whole bunch of people that I think maybe weren't using it before have started utilizing it in the time that I haven't been watching it. So since we've introduced the topic of politics, I listen to a lot of political podcasts that I haven't recommended on this show because we try not to go there, but they stream on Periscope, usually bits of their recordings. But like today, ABC News came up with a stream of some congressional hearings and things like that. So It's a good, fast, easy way that pops up a notification on my phone while I'm at work that I can put my headphones in, and even if I'm not actively watching it, I can hear it, and it works much better than, say, the live streaming on different news websites. Those don't seem to ever work well for me on my phone. They either stutter or they shut down when my phone tries to go to sleep, and I don't have that problem with Periscope. And there is a running commentary. So it's like all sorts of people are live tweeting whatever you're watching because Periscope is owned by Twitter. It does integrate with your Twitter, your Facebook, and your G Plus contacts, so you can get notifications when any of those people go live. But since I don't do Facebook, I know Facebook has a Facebook Live feature, and I'm not sure if the two integrate. I know most of the live streams that I'm watching are also streaming on Facebook Live as well. So I don't know how they're doing that since I don't Facebook. But from my end of what I'm seeing on my phone is a bunch of people basically live tweeting whatever it is that we're watching. And just like how Kelly and I met on Twitter from live tweeting bad movies, we're live tweeting bad news. So it's fun. And these tweets are not actually going on Twitter, it's all within the video. And the videos don't tend to go on all that long, 20, 30 minutes max. But it's interesting. And I haven't utilized this app as much as I should have, and I've really enjoyed it over the last few weeks. So I thought that I would mention it for anyone else out there like me who had heard the many times that Periscope was being shut down and had perhaps uninstalled it, that you might want to give it another try. Because on top of any of the more timely news going on, I have now discovered that a lot of the people that I follow on Twitter are using it for other things. Like I've got science, zoology type people who live stream the feeding of all of their fish or things like that. Just a few minutes. It's interesting stuff. It's cool. So there's a lot going on. A lot more people are using it than the last time I checked Periscope out. And the notification system on it works really well. Much better than really any of the other notifications. Like even, YouTube Live has its own streaming thing. I have found that the Periscope streaming notifications work a lot better and a lot faster than even my YouTube ones do. So that's good, seeing as how a lot of these things, people aren't getting up there and streaming for very long. They're just doing it for a few minutes. So if you wanted to do live interaction with any of these streams, getting the notification quickly is important. So Periscope's been working really well for me. My only complaint is that on my phone, the scrolling Twitter commentary that's going on takes up most of the picture. And since it's streaming a live video, that would seem to not be ideal. However, I don't have the problem on my tablet. With the larger screen, it doesn't take as much space. But on my iPhone 7, it does take up most of the screen if you've got a lot of people commenting. And that's my only gripe with it. So if you haven't checked out Periscope lately, go ahead and check it out. You can also go to, I think it is pscp.tv on your web browser. If you do a Google search on Periscope, it will come up. There's a Periscope TV app for Apple TV, which is slightly different. There's two different websites. I believe this Periscope.tv one is the kind of an aggregate of the most popular videos that's meant for the Apple TV, but you can still log in and watch there. The other one, which is pscp.tv, I believe, is the more of the live streaming one, and you can access that through a browser on your computer if you care to. But it is streamlined very well for the app, and it works really well. And I've been impressed with it. I haven't had any problems accessing any of the people that I've been looking for. And when I get a notification, it takes me right to the video in progress, and so it works really good. And I like it. I've enjoyed it. So I recommend everybody go check out Periscope if you haven't looked at it lately.
I think it's a great recommendation, and one other feature that I'd strongly encourage folks to try out on it so you can get in the Periscope app and the icons run across the top. One of the icons will be a globe, that you can click on. And then basically you go into a Google Maps like environment where you can pinch and zoom and go through. And so you can go across the country and find out who's kind of live on Periscope at this particular point in time. And you can kind of drill down into kind of what's going on. So when there are events occurring in locations, yeah. And so I remember, because I haven't been active in it for a while, but sometime back there was a fire in Las Vegas. There was a fire in the hotel complex around the Cosmopolitan and the Aria and all of that. And they have a pool with some palm trees, and some sort of problem happened and it caught fire. And so I was able to go into Periscope and kind of zoom into that area, and you could basically tap into streams of someone's driving down on a street nearby, and you could see it and all those types of things. So it becomes a really effective way if you're looking for that whole citizen journalism or just kind of people plugged in, that if you go to that globe option, you can kind of zoom in. As Mel was giving her recommendation, I brought my app back up to see, and Bloomington, Illinois is fairly quiet tonight, so there's not much going on. I went kind of in Mel's general vicinity, didn't see a ton of stuff going on either, but it is pretty cool, and it is not limited to the United States, so you kind of cruise around, see who's scoping or whatever word they use to say using Periscope. I mean, and you'll see something similar in Snapchat, but Snapchat's horrible and no one should use it. But where you can kind of also zoom into what people are kind of snapping in different locations. But this is kind of live, and so you're able to kind of tap in. So it is pretty powerful. And the thing that I struggle with or trying to understand is that it does, it seems to be on its deathbed from time to time. People, oh, it's going away or whatever on that. But it is. Facebook Live gets all the love because it's got this huge base and some things going on, but Periscope lets you go super local or interest-based, and I find it a little more democratic and kind of a cooler way to go. So I think it's a great recommendation.
Well, and it's also good for those of us who don't use Facebook, which I guess we're becoming a endangered species of those of us who don't Facebook. I could have a whole rant about some recent issues I've had with Facebook, but yeah. So I think it's important to support things outside of the Facebook world before Mark Zuckerberg becomes our next president, and things just get worse. Yeah. So since we're on the topic of politics, So I'm not. I've said it many times on here before. I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. And I haven't really used Facebook Live, so I couldn't really say. But I do like having an option that integrates with Twitter, which is my social media of choice. I know that Instagram has a live video thing. I'm not sure how long you can go on Instagram, but I still find I like Instagram, but I still find the interface of Instagram to be clunky and not really quickly able to find what you're looking for and whatnot. The notifications work okay on Instagram. Periscope is just so much more slick. It works good. The interface is great, and you gotta like things that work. So
absolutely.
And it works with Twitter, and I follow a horde of people on Twitter from all sorts of different demographics, whereas my Instagram, people that I follow on Instagram, more of a much narrower slice of my social media than Twitter is. I follow most of the world on Twitter, from every different genre of anything that I might possibly be interested in, whereas my Instagram people are much narrower in scope. So I get more of a worldview from it giving me notifications on Twitter, and you can either go through and pick people that you want to follow, or you can just automatically follow all the people that you follow from your other social media. So they make it easy, like most apps do these days, to follow a large number of people, or all of the important people in your life, very quickly. So it just works really cool, and I like it. So, and my phone doesn't go to sleep, and the commentary is often very hilarious because Twitter people are very funny. So I like it. So check out Periscope.
Very cool. And that recommendation.
Only you won't find Roger Stone on Periscope because he's been banned from Twitter.
However, as we move into social media recommendations, while Mr. Tostone may be currently banned at Stoneflick, STONEFLIK, the Twitter account associated with the Get Me Roger Stone documentary is still alive and kicking. And so I know that you're going to rush out and follow Stoneflick next, but this may be his only avenue for a while to get the word out. And I don't believe they're periscoping. Could be wrong, but I think if you find my recommendation on Get Me Roger Stone interesting, I follow on Stoneflick. Again, I'm not supporting. I'm just saying, an informed populace is a greater populace. So
he's just giving y'all information. He is not endorsing Roger Stone or his beliefs.
Or just Nixon back tattoos. Not going into any of that at this point in time. Alice Cooper back tattoos, totally endorsing. Nixon, not so much. So
I would fully endorse Alice Cooper, which I listened to the recent Squat Cobbler today, and I didn't have time to go get on Spotify to listen to the Brutal Planet album, but I will because y'all made it sound really cool.
We were so excited to. It's I think of every album. Mike and I love Alice, and there are several albums we very much wanted to talk about. That one is probably at close to the top of the list. It's not Lullaby. It's pretty intense stuff. But yeah, you should definitely get to Spotify and at a minimum Brutal Planet, which kicks off the album.
Yes.
I don't know. It's all good, but it is this Alice as you've never heard Alice before.
All right. Well, I'll have to check it out because y'all always make it sound so interesting, and I've almost always liked all of the Alice stuff that you have convinced me to listen to. So I'm sure I will like it.
And there's some intriguing stuff coming up soon. So I have to. So we mentioned, or I mentioned some of the YouTube stuff a little bit earlier. I had one, Mike and I. So Last Temptation, which was the previous album. That was the first time ever I had done a show with Mike where I didn't have to do any editing to put it on YouTube. That wasn't true from here on out. So I'm actually working on the YouTube version for Brutal Planet, and I'm having to do some work to kind of get it in a good place. But it's close. It'll be out soon.
Yeah, cool. So, and I'm sure anybody that listens to this show listens to Squat Cobbler because Kelly and Mike are very interesting. They're musical. Very musical.
It's the evil version of Nurture and Support.
And there are no cellos over on Squat Cobbler.
It is a kind of a cello-free zone. There's nothing wrong with cellos, but it is indeed a cello-free zone.
Yes. Well, for those who don't appreciate my love of cellos, they go listen to Squat Cobbler. However, you can be like me. I like cellos. I like all sorts of things, and I also like Alice Cooper, though I am not nearly as conversant in music as Kelly and Mike are, as all of you have noticed. So anyway, it was good. So if you haven't listened to Squat Cobbler's Brutal Planet episode, listen to it, and then go listen to Brutal Planet like me.
Awesome. I'm glad. It's probably I think the proudest moment that Mike and I have on the whole Alice Cooper series is the fact that we're connecting you to some of the Alice Cooper stuff that we love the most. That's where it's so cool. So we're very, very happy about that.
Good. Yes.
But speaking of people who are truly evil and make Mel angry, we're going to hand it over to Matt, who's going to tell you all of the information. How you can connect to Nurture and Support, the kinder and gentler Squat Cobbler. How you connect to Mel and I on Twitter and Stitcher and all sorts of other places. So he'll give you all the info and in a very good radio voice. And so we'll hand it over to the evil Matt Shivers, who will give you all that information. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nertandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com. Or tweet us at NertandSupp on Twitter.
Nurturing and supporting.